Hello, welcome to Get Modern. Today Andy's going to go through a new public preview feature called Temporary Access Pass. Andy is just there. Hi.
Hello.
So I admit I've not really had a chance to look at Temporary Access Pass since it was released. So hopefully you'll have a demo, or you're just going to chat about it. What's your plan?
Yeah, we're going to do a little demo just to introduce where you can get at it from the interface and do a little, configuration of it if you like, but only a quick intro. It's a small feature that's been added. Really, it's nothing major. It's not going to, it's nothing major in the whole industry. Just a quick tweak that they've added, really,
Brilliant.
which is it is good. It is good, but yeah, we do a bit of both. I think.
Good. Sounds
But
good.
I know you say you're not seen it, but I know you've done some. You're on your blog post. You've clearly done a few posts around passwords and Modern North and all of that. So I guess it kind of goes over that a little bit, but just adds to it.
Right, yeah. So I did a post on um, transitioning to modern auth, as in removing legacy authentication methods um, and using tokens and that kind of thing. So I guess if it's similar to that, then I'll probably have a good chance of understanding what you're talking about. So I'll probably ask some silly questions, but it should be all right.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Brilliant.
Okay. We might as well go straight in then. If you go straight
Yeah,
into it, and then we
yeah.
can have a chat about it afterwards, shall we?
Yeah, I'll move to your desktop then. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, the first thing I wanted to just say before we kind of go into a little bit of a demo is obviously this road to passwordless, if you like. And I've got this, by the way. This is on my blog post. I've written a blog post about it. If you fancy having a look, but Microsoft on this journey really to kind of push us down passwordless. I think, as we all know, we can have implement passwords, and obviously that's not very secure, and that can be hacked. And you've obviously seen, recently in the news, Microsoft was hacked themselves. I think it was something like 60,000 accounts that were hacked, and the SolarWinds of recently. So I think it's on people's minds about what we do with passwords. People forget them; they're annoying, and ultimately we want to get rid of them. Now it's within Microsoft interest, but generally speaking, they're also making it easier for us and more secure. And this is this path. If you go from left to right, basically you're getting more and more security. You can add when you get kind of here, you get MFA kind of approaches. You got the authenticator, software tokens, hardware tokens, etc. But ultimately, the journey is go to passwordless, so you don't ever have to remember or actually put any passwords in. And this is really TAP, or temporary access pass, is an additional MFA, so secure auth method that's been added. And I'll show you where it is. But if you go into your Azure portal, it's a service that's offered through the Azure tenant. So you go into Azure. Uh, Zoom in. You want it bigger? Oh, wrong way. How's that?
Yeah, lovely. Yep.
Yeah, okay. You select security option, and then underneath that, under manage, you'll get the authentication methods. Okay, so there's this blade, if you like, that's on offer here, which these are policies. So these are authentication methods, and these are where you add your policies. And you can see I've got a few. I've got Fido and Authenticator, and they're switched off at the moment. And I've got temporary access pass in preview, so it's switched on, but by default it's disabled or set to no. If I click on it, I will get a pane open up below. And again, these aren't the defaults. I've switched them on, so that'll be on no, and you'll have to select the users. Now, the way in which Microsoft recommends this is obviously you switch it on and you select your user groups, but ultimately you want it to apply to all your users. And I actually thinking about this, that if they keep going down this route, they'll probably switch it on, enable it by default, because it's not something, it's a temporary thing, and basically it will be used on kind of the odd occasion. It's not going to be used all the time like the other methods. But what is it? It's an additional policy or different additional authentication method that is time bound as temporary. The idea being that you will use it in specific scenarios where you need to recover recover access to your credentials in order to change your authentication methods, or it has been used or can be used within for temporary reasons for, say, a first time a new joiner, for example, that needs to set up their authentication methods. Now, I was thinking about that, and I've looked around a number of the blog posts and videos. There are a number of them around, even though this was kind of released recently at Ignite. The MFA options and methods have been around for some time, and there's something like 200 million people have now used MFA for kind of logons. You know, predominantly that would have been Windows Hello for Business, but it might be the Authenticator app. And what this does is it just adds an additional method onto that. Okay.
When you say
On the
MFA, do you mean passwordless, which could be any one of these
It
auth
could be,
methods,
yeah. So
right?
yeah, so this is the passwordless MFA's, authentication method.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, on the right hand side, you under general here, you've got some settings. If I hit edit, you'll see some of the parameters really from how you can configure it. So you go from minutes to hours and days. I think you can do it from 10 minutes up to a number of days, and then you've got the maximum settings you've got there. You can hit a default lifetime, again minutes, hours, or days. It's set to 1 by default, 1 hour, but you can also change the length of characters. Now that this, I guess this, just to kind of pause on that a sec, I had to think about this really. I really had to kind of read through it a number of times to really think, how could this really be useful, right? Because in one sense, they're saying you want to go passwordless, but actually, what you're doing is creating a temporary password, right? And if you had a strategy where you want to kind of move your business to passwordless, and you don't want all the support calls coming through, reset my password, and all of those, that added cost, then this in a sense is just adding a password, albeit a temporary one. Okay.
Yeah.
um but so I kind of struggle with that a little bit, if I'm honest.
Well, I
The
think I
last
think
set
it does make sense, because in some cases you do need a password, because it says there used for, on the left hand side, used for onboarding and recovery. So I mean, it might be that onboarding makes me think it might be if you have a new employee or something, then they want to, that they're joining the company, but you don't want to give them a password, because then they would have to maintain that password moving forward, and
Yeah,
you just want them to be able to
exactly.
get in, register for another authenticator app or MFA or whatever, and then get cracking and hopefully use Hello for Business to log in moving forward, and never need
Yeah.
another password moving forward. So that temporariness
Hmm.
there is brilliant. So it is quite, it's kind of, it does make it passwordless in a way, in that you have a very short, for a short term you have a password, and then after that you haven't got a password. So it
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it should
agree.
fit.
But I do think the fact that they're kind of saying move away from passwords, that's why they called this pass rather than password. Temporary
Yeah,
access password.
yeah.
I wonder whether they're just using that because it kind of overlaps with password in a way. But anyway, but I take your point. It's a valid point. I think you're right. It fits a gap that probably needs to be filled. To be honest with you. Um, so just this last point. So require one-time pass, one-time use. So by default, Microsoft say you should keep it to no. If you did, obviously, only want that to be used the one time. So, for example, if someone was onboarding, um, and they only needed it effectively once, they didn't want to give that user the opportunity to log into something else, then you'd set that as a one time. Okay, so I'll cancel out that because I've got that set already. Now, the other side of it really is, so how do you then go and set this up for an end user? Um, Now, some of the posts that I've seen, you would actually navigate, go to your users within Azure AD, um, within the Azure portal. But I wanted to see how you can get at it from Microsoft Endpoint Manager and see whether it's available. So if you go log on to your Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center, go to your users. I've got one here, so Alex Wilbur, and down on the left-hand menu options, you'll see authentication methods. Um, at the top, now this is automatically gone into the options here, okay, but you can switch back to originally what you'll see is like a pink background on this banner, and it would direct you to this screen or this plane. Um, Effectively, what you do to add the authentication method is you hit the plus button if it works, and then on the drop down you'll see temporary access pass preview. Now, kind of mimicking what we saw within the Azure portal, you've got the default 1 hour setting, but you can change that. That can go up and down. But actually, one other key or setting that I thought was quite useful is you can delay this, so you can put a start time and a day, and even the time zone in here. And I think I think that is actually quite powerful, because if you do have someone onboarding, you want to prepare this. They're not starting till tomorrow morning, then you can go in and do that. So that's quite a powerful thing. But you also get the option again, set it as a one-time use or not, as the case may be.
So I guess
Um,
I guess looking at the options you've got there, this is how an engineer or an admin would set up a pass for a user. I guess what you're seeing essentially is those settings that you can choose there as the admin are limited by the settings that you've set in the previous admin portal version, where you were setting the default duration, for example, was set to 1, and that's what we see here. And the
yeah, that's
maximum,
right.
I guess, would be also the same. So if you were to drag that along to the maximum, I assume
Yeah,
that would be the maximum that the administrator is allowed, which in this case is 8. So that makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. That's really good. So you're essentially controlling
yes,
how this can be used by an admin.
yeah. So the Azure portal defines the settings, defines the service, and then obviously within Mem here or within Active Directory within the Azure portal, you then get to kind of use the benefits or the settings of that service. But again, there's a bit of flexibility because it will allow you to change that slightly from the default. Now, if I hit, so I've got this user, if I hit the add button here, um, you'll see a token or a pass generated. Um, as you can see, this is an 8-character pass, which was what we set it to within the Azure portal. So that shows that that's working. And it also gives you a link to the My Security info. Now, this basically what Microsoft say is, so the next step is the user that's got the particular issue or wanting to kind of add some functionality. You would give them this pass. You can copy it at the end here, and you tell them basically to go to My Security info. Now, what's the purpose of that? Well, if you have a scenario, say someone's out in the field, they lose their phone, which they've got the authenticator app, they've got a token. They lose their token, or it's damaged in some way or something. So they don't have a way of authenticating, but they need to get on and look at some resources, for example. How would they do that? So this is one option in which they can do that, because this gives them an additional method of secure authentication. So you would pass this pass to that end user. You'd tell them effectively to go to the My Security info, or they can log on with that pass to other services. Okay. Um, One thing to note, now when I close this and I hit OK, I can't go back into this pane. So once you've created it, make sure that you do copy it, because um, if you need to go back in or you haven't copied it and you can't remember, then you're going to have to delete the existing pass and then create a new one. Okay, which you can do, but might be a bit annoying. Okay,
But I like
so,
that security info thing, because that's the link that you need to go to do your the security info, obviously, and the strong credentials and stuff. But I keep losing it, and I know I'm forever googling that page, and so the
that
fact that
page,
it's
yeah.
there in front of you is it's a nice touch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that page, and we'll go to it in a sec, but that page is where, say, for example, you did lose your phone and you did have the authenticator app on it and you did lose your token, for example. This is the page where you would go to set up your methods of authentication. So I think, while it is taking away the issue of passwords and all the issues that come around that, at the same time, it does look like with these new methods of authentication, it is kind of pushing that responsibility on the end user. So it won't be done automatically by an administrator. It's effectively saying, look, we've introduced these secure ways for your company, but it's your responsibility to make sure that you kind of keep them up to date. And I guess there might be some policy or some monitor that comes out to see, monitors the activity of that, where people don't have enough, authentication routes for their account or something,
Mm.
and they can then bolster that up in some way. Who knows?
I think it always
So
has
let's do it.
been responsibility of the end user to look after their own passwords and credentials and stuff. But it's been users very rarely do see it as their responsibility, because admins with passwords at least, admins are always the enforcer, aren't they? So they will set an expiry time and a length and all that kind of stuff. So for that reason, users feel less responsible because they're being controlled. So I guess this,
Yeah.
uh, setting your own, you choose which phone you use, you choose which app you use, you choose all the stuff about that authentication is your choice as a user. I think that'll
Yeah.
really make the users feel more empowered to make good security choices around that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I've copied that first, but we'll go and test that. Okay. So let me open up a new tab. I'll go to that site. Okay, there it is. Lucky for me, I've used it before. Okay, I will pick my. Was it not on here? Okay, let's use someone else. Uh, So I pick my user, which I've set the temporary access pass up for, and automatically it's come up and saying enter your temporary access pass. Okay, so if I put my pass in there and sign in, I want to do that. Don't want to keep it present. That will take me in. Okay, eventually.
That's quite neat. Did we set it for
Yeah.
one-time use or?
No, I didn't set up for
Right.
one-time use, but obviously it's time bound. The other thing is that from what I've seen, if you're doing it on, there are certain restrictions around these policies. So from what I've seen, if you want to make changes, there is a 10-minute limit to making changes. I haven't actually witnessed what happens beyond that 10 minutes, and they're different depending on the device that you're using, but there's a 10-minute window. So even though you've got that window of when you can use the password, you've also got a time bound window within the service that you log into.
Interesting.
um, yeah, and I need to test that because I haven't seen that myself, but as you can
Mm,
see here, if I wanted to go and then add, I don't have the option. Okay, but if I wanted to add a token on here, I can do that within here, and then I can set that token up within this window.
sure. Yeah.
um, if I've lost one or whatever, and suddenly I will have my authentication, routes that I can then use
Mm,
if I've lost one. You'll see there, obviously, it's got the temporary access pass and it tells you when it expires as well. And if you wanted to, say you made a change, you can then go and delete it yourself. So there's that. Okay, so that's it. That's it in a nutshell, really. It's not much more to it, and there's a few user cases. Puts the power in the end user lab, and it's a temporary solution.
Well, that's really neat. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally have one of the FIDO. I haven't got it with me, but the one of the FIDO 2 Ubico keys that I want to have a go at using in the future for a demonstration. I mean, so yeah, that's really good, really good.
Cool.
So, what's
So what
next
we're
then?
looking at, what we're going to look at next. What do you
Yeah,
fancy?
indeed. I really haven't decided. There's three that I'm preparing a blog post for, and I really haven't decided which to do. But my blog post for removing legacy authentication and moving to modern auth was massively trumped by a chap, Fabian Beda, who has written a fantastic series of blog posts on how to do that in a um, much more clear way than me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a look at that and see if I can see what I can get out of that. You know, with my own customers that are struggling to move from legacy auth as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, to taking a deeper look at that. He hasn't quite written the final post yet in that series, but so far it is brilliant. Yeah.
Right. You need to get in quick then, basically.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to bring up, we've hit 21 minutes now, so don't want to spend too much longer on this. But obviously we are we're as you know we're going to announce the cloud management user group in the next few days, so that's going to be fun. Looking at around about the 13th of April for the first meetup, which will be really exciting. We've got a couple of speakers lined up already, so I'm really chuffed to be able to announce that in the next few days. But you know, if you are watching this, wait it out. You'll see it on Twitter in the next few days, and that should be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to that. It's going to keep us busy, and then just to say, if you like this sort of thing, then please subscribe. We are doing adding more material each week. Pretty active on Twitter. If you want to keep up to date with us on there, you'll find out what we're introducing. So yeah, good to have you along the journey.
Yeah, indeed. Good. Well, thanks very much for your time, Andy, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah. Cheers then. Cheers
Cheers.
all.
Bye.